In 1988, while other games were focused on martial arts or military prowess, Sega went ancient. They delivered a mythological epic defined by massive character sprites, bizarre enemy designs, and digitized voice samples that would go on to become legendary.
Rise from your grave.
That game was Altered Beast.
Welcome to your doom.
Today, we are back with another episode of Arcade Economy, and on this show, we take a look at old arcade classics to determine just how much they cost to beat at the time of their release. In our last episode, we entered a dystopian future to fight for cash and toasters in the twin-stick chaos of Smash TV. Today, we're answering Zeus's call for Sega's side-scrolling classic, Altered Beast. Now, real quick, before I get started, I just want to let everyone know that I am doing another giveaway, and this time, I'm giving away a Commodore 64 Mini Black Edition. Shout out to Play on Americas for sending me this, and I did do a recent unboxing of this, so if you'd like to see that, you can check the description in this video to view. Now, to enter to win, all you need to do is be subscribed, head on over to my Discord server, and go into the giveaways channel. I hope to see you over there, and good luck to everyone who is entering. Was Altered Beast a beat-em-up worthy of the gods, or was it just a stiff, slow-moving quarter trap stealing your money before your first transformation? As always, that's what we're here to find out. By the late 1980s, Sega was a force to be reckoned with in the video game industry. They were riding high on a string of arcade hits like the racer Hang-On, the sci-fi shooter Alien Syndrome, and the iconic ninja classic Shinobi. But Sega had bigger ambitions than just ruling the arcade floor. They were eyeing up a piece of the home console market, and at the time were unaware that their newest game would help them break through with their next system. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. While planning their next major title, Sega turned to the team behind Shinobi and placed them under the direction of a rising star within the company, Makoto Uchida. For his first project lead, Uchida drew inspiration from a wild mix of pop culture and classic cinema. He looked at Michael Jackson's Thriller and werewolf movies like The Howling for the body horror elements, and then mashed that up with the stop-motion mythology of Ray Harryhausen classics like Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans. To bring this vision to life, the team utilized Sega's System 16 arcade board. The hardware was designed to handle large, detailed sprites, which was crucial for the game's central mechanic, the transformations. Uchida was so obsessed with getting these right that he reportedly instructed his lead artist to dedicate an entire month just to perfecting the metamorphosis sequences. And honestly, for 1988, it really paid off. Some of Uchida's ambitious vision was ultimately hampered by business realities, though. He had heavily pushed for the arcade cabinet to feature pressure-sensitive buttons, which would have allowed for varied attack strengths and deeper combos based on how hard the player pressed. Unfortunately, Sega couldn't secure a deal with the patent holder in time, and the plan was scrapped along with a significant amount of combat depth. Altered Beast released in arcades in June of 1988 and would go on to be much more popular in North America and Europe than it was in Japan. Sega recognized this Western popularity and decided to capitalize on it. They were preparing to launch their new revolutionary 16-bit home console, the Mega Drive in Europe and the Genesis in North America, and they needed a title to demonstrate the system's raw power right out of the box. Sega seized the opportunity, making the decision to include a port of Altered Beast as the system's pack-in game. It held that position for years, serving as the first taste of next-gen power, until a certain blue hedgehog eventually sped onto the scene to take its place. Now, as for the Genesis port itself, it served as a near-arcade perfect translation. The home version actually surpassed the arcade original in one aspect, featuring gorgeous, multi-tiered parallax scrolling in its backgrounds, something that was strangely absent from the arcade version. Sega would also go on to create a number of home computer ports, but these wouldn't even come close to the Genesis version, and honestly, aren't really worth talking about. They're also kind of a chore to play. There were a couple of 8-bit console ports too, including a Master System version, which was basically expected since Sega would port almost all of their games to their old system. Surprisingly, a Famicom version was released in Japan. That's Japan's name for the NES for those of you who are unaware. But again, this was a far cry from the arcade or Genesis version, which is probably why it never made its way to Western audiences. When it came to sequels, Altered Beast wouldn't get another entry into its franchise until 2002 with the release of Altered Beast: Guardian of the Realms on the Game Boy Advance. It received mixed reviews, with critics critiquing its very long levels and repetitiveness. You could probably pass on this one. In 2005, Altered Beast got a reboot on the PS2, which was also met with mixed reception, citing again its repetitiveness. Due to said reception, the game never made its way to North America. The game also had nothing to do with the original arcade and featured a completely new story. Instead of being empowered by Zeus, now you're just a guy who got experimented on and has the power to transform into different beasts. At the time of this video's release, this would be the last entry in the Altered Beast franchise. Speaking of the story, the arcade version features a classic tale of mythology and takes place in ancient Greece. Neph, the ruler of the underworld, has kidnapped the goddess Athena, and her father, Zeus, is naturally pretty pissed off about it. But rather than handling it himself, the king of the gods decides to outsource. Respecting the bravery of the Roman centurions, Zeus chooses one who fell in battle and commands them to
Rise from your grave.
Empowered by Zeus, the player is tasked with marching straight into the underworld, battling Neph's minions, and using their new shape-shifting abilities to save Athena. The story unfolds through a number of cutscenes that appear between levels. There is a final twist in the end credits, though. Turns out the entire game wasn't a mythological epic at all, it was just a movie or play or something like that. Or at least that's up for debate. The credits actually show the actors taking off their monster costumes and drinking beers during their rap party. Makoto Uchida has stated that he views making video games similar to the way movies are made, and that is why he included this in the game's final credits. Altered Beast is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up with some light platforming and can be played with up to 2 players. Players can jump, punch, and kick. Using the directional arrows with these buttons also allows for things like higher jumps, jump punches, jump kicks, and crouched attacks. Upon defeating white 2-headed wolves, players can pick up Spirit Ball power-ups, which will increase the player's strength and size. Obtaining 3 of these power-ups will alter your physical appearance and attributes, transforming you into a humanoid beast. When in your beast form, players become completely overpowered with much faster movement and stronger attacks. You'll also be granted with a projectile attack. There's a pretty large enemy variety throughout the game, with more than 15 enemies excluding bosses. These enemies range from zombies to mythical creatures and will change depending upon which level you're on. Side note, the cockatrice enemy would return a year later in Golden Axe as a rideable mount, proving that bad guys can change too if you give them a chance. There are 5 different levels throughout the game, and on each you will transform into a different beast with different attacks. The first level is the Graveyard, where you will be turned into a werewolf. The werewolf has a straight projectile and can thrust kick forward. Level 2 is the Cave, and in this level you'll turn into a dragon and will be able to fly effortlessly throughout the level. In this form you can fire what appears to be electrical blasts and perform a radial blast when enemies get too close. Level 3 takes place in the underground cavern, where you'll turn into a bear. This is easily my least favorite of the beasts. The bear's projectile is a short-range breath that turns enemies to stone. His dash attack sees him rolling into a ball, which I wasn't even sure was doing any damage. Level 4 is the Netherworld Fortress, and sees you turning into a jacked tiger. Your tiger abilities give you a zigzag projectile and a vertical thrust attack. This beast felt the most OP for me and was a lot of fun to use. In the final stage, you'll go to the Netherworld Sanctum, and your spirit beast is the Gold Werewolf, which is basically the same as the regular werewolf, just stronger. I have to say that I do think that the gameplay mechanics of Altered Beast aged pretty poorly. Who knows how different of a game this would have been had we got the pressure-sensitive buttons that Uchida wanted. Some things that I did notice was that it was really hard to dodge enemies at certain times, especially after they had laid that initial hit on you. There were a few times while playing that I did find myself getting a little frustrated. I found myself being locked into a combo and unable to get out of it. Just really hard to move around to dodge enemies at certain times. Really, there's only one boss in the game, and that's Neph, but he'll take on multiple different forms at the end of each level as you chase him across the Netherworld. His first form is Agar, an ogre-like monster that is primarily made up of mud and rotting corpses. He'll throw an endless amount of heads at you, so I just tried to wait for an opening in the pattern and hit him with my projectiles. His second form is Octeyes, and honestly, he's probably the easiest boss in the game. He'll throw very slow-moving eyes at you. I just stayed in place and spammed my projectile. When the eyes got too close, I used my shock to take care of them. Neff's third form is Moldy Snail, and he's probably one of the hardest bosses in the game. He'll throw fireballs and a barrage of swirling green orbs at you that I found a little hard to avoid. It didn't help that I think the weakest beast, the bear, is your transformation in this boss level. I tried to get up close to him and use my petrifying breath on him. Crocodile Worm is the fourth form, and the key to beating this form is patience. He'll fire a row of projectiles at different heights. Just make sure you duck under them and wait if they get too low. He'll also send out smaller dragons that will hurt you if you run into them, so it's best to avoid. I found it best to get right up underneath him and hit him with my upward thrust attack. And then there's Neff's final form, Van Vader. A giant rhinoceros. He is easily the hardest boss in the game, and I struggled to avoid him. I did notice a little bit of input reading during this boss fight. He can also knock you down from your thrust mid-air, which seems kind of cheap, and if you put distance between him, he'll relentlessly charge at you. I didn't realize this until after I beat him, but the key to avoiding him is to jump and then use your thrust to fly over him. I did do a second playthrough of the game and found that by jump and thrust kicking him, he is much, much easier to defeat. And now to answer the question everyone's been waiting for, how much did I spend to beat Altered Beast? For these games, I play them on their default settings and set up a counter to increase every time I hit the insert coin button. For Altered Beast, that meant 25-cent plays on medium difficulty, and each play gave me 3 lives with 3 bars of health. At the end of the game, I only spent a total of $3 or 12 plays. Now back in 1988, $3 would feel like spending $8.26 today. Now this game was a little on the shorter side. It took me only 24 minutes and 27 seconds to beat, which factors out to approximately 12 cents per minute. The bosses in this game are relatively easy, with the exception of the final boss Van Vader. I spent no money on Agar, Octeyes, or Crocodile Worm. I spent 25 cents on Moldy Snail, and 50 cents on Van Vader, bringing my boss total to only 75 cents. And now it's time to bust out the Predatory game scale to determine just how predatory Altered Beast was in stealing your money. Overall spend was really low on this one, but there were a few things I noticed that may bump up the score a little bit. While very minimal, I did notice some input reading during the final boss. That being said, I don't think that there is any unavoidable damage or any super cheap shots or gotcha moments throughout the game. For punitive game mechanics, yeah, the controls can be a little rough. Your character is really slow moving and sluggish, especially before turning into your beast character. And as I mentioned before, it's really hard to dodge enemies once you take initial damage from them. When looking at other beat-em-ups that released around this time, I do think this one is lower on the gameplay scale. Comparing it to games like Double Dragon, Final Fight, Splatterhouse, and Golden Axe, I think that this is easily below those. Of the games I've looked at from this era, I think the only thing that this kind of surpasses would be Superman. The continue system is pretty normal. If you die, it doesn't send you back to the beginning of the level or make you start the game over again or anything like that. As long as you have the bankroll, you can continue to roll on through the game. Where this game really shines is in its variety of beast characters that you get to transform into, and the feeling of being overpowered as you take on all of these enemies. But really, that's only half the game, and the other half of the game you're spent in your puny human form. The way that I view Altered Beast is that this game needed to walk so that games like Golden Axe could run, and that's another Makoto Uchida game, which I think is a much better game from all aspects. Sure, this game's cost was low, but it's also just a little dull. And for those reasons, I'm giving Altered Beast a 4 out of 10 on the Predatory game scale.
Never give up.
Hey guys, 2-player data is coming to Arcade Economy, and next time I'm playing through the Die Hard Arcade. I'm going to be playing with my streaming pal Scott. So if you've watched any of our live streams, then you'll know that Scott and I tend to play retro games together. So we will have both single-player and 2-player data for the next video, so be sure to come back for Die Hard Arcade.
Arcade Economy is going to go way up because I'm playing. Oh, the TV just blew up.
If you'd like to support Mass Replay, you can do so by becoming a patron on Patreon or a YouTube member. At the VIP viewer level, you'll get all of my videos early and ad-free, Plus, you'll be able to play games with Scott and I during our monthly community streams. I also just recently launched our monthly newsletter over on Patreon, which is completely free to everyone. I've created a cover made out to look like an old video game magazine, and you can sign up as a free member to get this in your inbox every month. It's my way of being able to let you guys know of any updates and scheduled videos or live streams that are happening on the channel. You can also support us at the producer level and get your name shouted out in my videos, just like our Patreon producers, Paula Boone, Jake Weed, Tanner Trezza, and Pezmage. Please check out the links in my description for how you can support Mass Replay, sign up for our newsletter, or check out our producers' channels. But as always, just you watching these videos supports me a ton, so thank you so much. If you enjoyed my video, you know what to do. Big thumbs up, and hopefully you'll see me on my next video. Thank you for watching.